Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rekakadosh. Now, when you look at the situation of slavery, you had the Catholic Church pretty much pushing the agenda, and they made the Catholic dogma doctrine mandatory in the colonies and on the plantation. And then you had the element of the slave master who had the plantation. He would pretty much set up the preacher and look over the preacher and make sure the slave preacher preached what he wanted to be preached. And so that's pretty much the same situation that's going on. And for some reason, the slaves can hear and know that this religion or this doctrine was a major element in slavery. Some of the people even think it caused slavery, because it really did. That doctrine kept them thinking that they was Hamites who was cursed, and they didn't understand the whole story. And the doctrine of the law is done away with, that's been going on since the Catholic Church. They didn't follow the law, and so that put our peoples in error automatically. But when you go to Isaiah 30, it shows you the main problem with our people. I'm going to start at verse 1 and say, "Woe to the rebellious children, says the Lord, that take counsel but not of me." See, they taking the counsel of their slave master. They're not trying to take the counsel from the Bible. You can't even open the Bible up to them and have a conversation. But the verse goes on to say, "And that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin." That's them believing the doctrine that the law is done away with. Verse 2, it say they walk, verse 2, that walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. See, that's America, that shadow of Egypt. That's America, the spiritual Egypt, the great city in Revelation 11, Salakia, Revelation 11 and 8. That shadow of Egypt is the spiritual Egypt that these peoples trust in. See, they put their trust in America, in the American government, who's telling them to do certain things. Verse 3, it says, "Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be their shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion," because you're going to be ashamed that you allowed yourself to believe this doctrine. See, they're going to be deeply ashamed, and they're going to be confused to why they believe the doctrine. Now, this is one of the main reasons they believe the doctrine, because it's a bunch of lies. But this Isaiah 30 verse 10, it say, "Which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits." See, because they was raised up with this doctrine. They was introduced with the doctrine of deceit and lies. So when you're not coming, when the prophets are not coming with that doctrine, they get rejected. See, they don't want to hear what the real prophet is supposed to do. Because when you go to, let's go over to the next chapter and show what the prophet's gonna do. And this is why they don't want to hear the prophets, because the prophet's not coming to speak smooth things, and they're not coming with deceit. They gonna tell you the truth. See, and the truth might hurt, but this is what they're gonna tell you. Deuteronomy 28:8 say, the prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence. Now mind you that pestilence was the last major thing that the prophets was named to prophesy about, because that's the main thing that's happening right now. But they don't want to hear about these things. They want smooth things. And so that's what's going to take us to verse 12 of Isaiah chapter 30. Verse 12, it say, wherefore thus says the Holy One of Israel, because ye despise this word. So they don't want to hear the word. They even despise the word. And trust in oppression. See, they trust in the doctrine of the oppressor. Peoples that been oppressing them for 400 years. And perverseness, and stay there wrong. And so that's what's going to be their punishment. And see, these people, they are rebellious children. That's why verse 1 of chapter 30 say, destruction to the rebellious children. All these rebellious children that want to trust in the doctrine of their slave master, they're going to die. They're going to be destroyed. Now, it's a part of the Lord's plan and punishment for the nation of Israel. Let me get that in Thessalonians. Part of the punishment. And I'm going to just get straight to the point. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, verse 11, it says, and for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. Verse 12, that they all might be damned, who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. See, so they didn't want to believe the truth anyway. But this is a delusion. The doctrine of that slave master was a strong delusion that he let go forth. Well, the ones that didn't believe the lie, it would mean their destruction. And so they died by the pestilence, and they died by the sword of their slave master due to their rebelliousness, which is equal to witchcraft, according to 1 Samuel 15. But yeah, the doctrine of the slave master is going to be the death of these people, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, who go back to the descendants of slaves, who are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Their destruction is going to be because of their rebelliousness. They want to believe the doctrine, and that doctrine is going to lead them to a path of destruction. But I'm going to leave it there. All praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shah, by Hashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. Our kingdom is at hand. Shalom.